Welcome everybody. This is a conversation with Gail Lynn about the Harmonic Egg, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a backstory before we get started today, and because it's so important, I think, to the story and the very reason why I wanted to introduce Gail to each one of you. Some of you, if you've been following me around for a little while, you know that I've been connecting with the collective consciousness of the kids for a couple decades now. And in January of 2019, one of the things that started happening is the collective consciousness of the kids came back, and they kept saying that this is a time in history where they would be able to be more fully integrated, meaning that life here could be a little bit less challenging with the level of sensitivity and awareness and consciousness that this population was actually bringing. So at January 2019, I started hearing that the kids were interested in, they kept talking about these pods, is the way they would put it. And that these pods would help them integrate, and that I was supposed to be on the lookout for these pods. And so I, being me, I kind of went into all of these, research mode. I was looking into all kinds of different things, and I was wondering if I was supposed to be creating a pod or if I was supposed to be doing this or the other thing. And none of that really kind of came to pass. They just kept talking about and at one point they said that the pods existed, that they already were. And so I'm looking up pods, Googling pods everywhere to see what I can come up with. And then all of a sudden, I was having a conversation with Sandy Sedgebear. She actually happened to be visiting me. And we were talking about these pods, and she said, she goes, okay. She goes, I want to introduce you to Gail Lynn. And so one day, Sandy was visiting, I came downstairs, Gail was literally on Zoom or Skype or something. And I literally, honestly, Gail, before you even said a word, I thought, this is it. This is it. It's like, I'm so excited. I could feel it in every fiber of my being. And as I got talking to Gail about the Harmonic Egg and what she had created, that was all well and good. That was wonderful. And I could tell by my physical reaction to it that she was the person I was going to be continuing to have this conversation with. But more importantly than even the technology and what she had created was this other piece, which for me has always been so important when it comes to the collective consciousness of the children. The kids have always said it's not just what is created or what is being offered to them, it's the consciousness with which it is created. So we can create all kinds of technologies and all kinds of amazing experiences supposedly on their behalf. But if that technology is not built from a state of consciousness that actually holds them in the presence of who they actually are, if it doesn't actually hold this population and or anybody else who moves into this technology from a place of honoring, of trust, of love, of deep respect for the potentials and possibilities that exist, not only through the technology, but through the individual. The kids have always said, then it doesn't work. It's a done deal. It's like, don't send us there. Well, I'm having this conversation with you and Gail today, introducing you to Gail, because Gail, I swear, it's like you really do. You just hit all of those points, and you always have. And the minute I met you, I knew that without a doubt about you. And it's one of the reasons why I just wanted to have conversation. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry, sweetheart. But this is also part of it. I think Gail and I were laughing on our first conversation. We were both in tears. And I think, number one, being able to recognize somebody who has that heart, who has that compassion, who really is doing something and creating something from a true desire to have it be of support in the world and have it actually flow through her. I think, Gail, that's exactly what you've done. And when I'm talking to energetically sensitive kids all the time, I mean, this is the kind of consciousness that's actually required for them. And so, you know, from the get-go, I've been of support and want to be of support to you in any way I can, because it's a direct, it's not just for you, it's also for the kids, and it's also what I know that humanity can become as part of it. So I want you to tell people a little bit about the Harmonic Egg, maybe even talk to them a little bit about, you know, why you created it, how it came into being, and then maybe a little bit about what you're noticing so far, and then I can just share a little bit more about what the kids have said. So, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. We can hear you.
Great. Sorry about the little emotion. That wasn't expected. I feel so humbled to be the guardian of this technology. And it's just weird. I come from, you know, just a blue collar family in Detroit. And so it's not anything I thought my life was going to be. I worked in automotive. I worked in telecom. I worked in Hollywood, and I wasn't making a difference in the world. And I always knew I would make a difference in the world, but I had no idea how that would happen. And through a series of really strange, but not so strange events, I got caught up in this wind wave where the harmonic egg was coming through in the universe. And I think I got swept up in it. And it just, I went with the windstorm and grabbed a hold of it. And of course I said no 100 times because I thought, no, I'm a corporate girl. I'm really good at project management, operations, and building companies. And that's my gift. Little did I know this was going to be the gift. And I felt my whole life I was intuitive, but I didn't know that not everybody would be able to pick up a book and find the answer. I thought everybody did that, you know, because that's just what my whole life has been like. And so when this idea came and I said, no, 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 and then universe, source, God, whatever word you use said, yes, yes, yes. And I said, no, no, no. It resulted in me losing my entire identity and being bankrupt. And I fought so hard not to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think that I had it in me to do it. So finally I said, okay, you've stripped everything from me. If you want me to do this, show me how. And that's kind of how it came about. And I'll have a book coming out probably first part of next year to kind of explain more, because I don't want to waste a bunch of people's time on the whole story. But it's when you see it all together now, you can see how I was guided and my whole life was preparing me for this. So the harmonic egg is a wooden structure made of sacred geometry components. So we use the golden mean ratio for the width and the length. We use a hexagon platform. We use a 12-sided paneled, and again, all wood on the outside and the inside, in a zero gravity chair where you recline in. I feel like what happens is the sound and light spiral around you inside this egg shape geometry, and it just takes the body to a level below consciousness at an awakened state. Of course, you can sleep in there, but it seems to just lift people out of the cellular trauma that is holding them back and causing disease. And for me, it has helped with my asthma and my migraines and my cystic acne and my hair falling out and just a plethora of other things, but this is just sound and light. We're sound and light beings. So I've noticed with the kids, you have to, no matter, well, like Suzy was saying, no matter what technology you have out there, when they come in, even in adults, you want to earn their trust. You know, they have to be able to feel safe in the environment. And so I have kids come in all the time, and they're scared. You can tell in their face and their energy. It's like, what did my parents bring me to? What's going on here? What's going to happen? We had a little 4-year-old when I was doing training in Dallas, and she came in, and her mom even said, I made the mistake of telling her this was a treatment. And so right away, treatment means, you know, poking and prodding and lights and people staring at her. And so she hid behind her mom, and we put them in together, and we got a text about probably an hour after the session. And she said she was quiet for about an hour, and then she was 9,000 miles of happiness. It was so cool. But she was safe in that environment. The people that were surrounding her made her feel safe, and it was just a beautiful experience. And so these are the type of things that I see happening all the time, where the parents are reporting some amazing result an hour or two after.
Gail, I want to go back to one thing that you said, because it's really important. I don't want us to miss it.
Sure.
When you were talking about that the egg itself, through the sound and the color and the geometry, takes you to that level that is just below consciousness, but you stay conscious, right? I want to point out to everybody from the collective consciousness of the kids' perspective how important this is, because when you can actually be at that state of consciousness, that is, the best way I can say that is a deeper level of embodiment. And for, just as you were saying, just like they get scared of coming to an egg or coming to be poked and prodded, and anybody would, and them in particular as well, because they have been so much, it's not as natural, it's not as easy for them to embody to that state of consciousness. They get to a certain place of their embodiment, and they start feeling the collective poking and prodding and all of this, and they head out the other direction. So the very fact that the egg puts them in a state of consciousness, it invites them, it's an invitation. And that's one of the things that the kids had talked about over and over again, this invitation to be in that level of consciousness here, right? So I just want to point out 2 things are going together here that are really, really important. One, it's the love, it's the nurturing, it's the trust, it's the invitation that you create into the egg, right? And then once in the egg is creating a whole other invitation for them to come into the body, but to come into the body without the trauma of having to get there. It's like the egg creates the container, as far as I can tell. You can correct me, but as far as I can tell, the egg creates the container, the space, the environment, all the things are in place for that invitation to say, you know, yes, you can come all the way into this level of consciousness right below the unconscious, and you can sit in that space and let it do what it will naturally and organically do. Yeah?
Yes. And to add to that, it's a consistent and repeatable device. So you have a lot of people doing Reiki or other modalities on the kids, and they pick up just the slightest change of their brain, of they're thinking about their husband, what's he doing, or thinking about the kids or their finances. And so the egg helps them to stay in that space without any emotional baggage from anyone, because they don't want me working on them. My brain's all over the place. You know? So I feel like it created a consistent and repeatable technology or modality for anyone to feel safe in, and have that whole time, 40 minutes of music and 10 minutes of silence, just to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and every time I look at it too, that was one of the other things that the collective consciousness of the kids was saying, is that this technology, this pod that they were originally talking about, your harmonic egg, that they would go into that space and they would spend time there, right? They would receive what they received from it, and ultimately be able to take that out into the world with themselves. Like it's almost like it's like building that energy internally. You know, if you've never gone into that place consciously, if you've never been able to dip into that unconscious place consciously, because there's been a barrier to it, and then all of a sudden you can do that, now it's like you're learning a new skill set. You're learning a new, there's a different level of presence, you know, available to you, which you can then try out in the world.
Yeah. So
And,
my
then, and come back again when you need a kind of a jump start again, or a refresher course. Yeah.
absolutely. I have people come out and they feel, some people say they feel lighter. Some people say they feel heavier.
Yeah.
And the heaviness they describe as they're grounded, they're solid, or the lighterness, they feel like they've now have a different level of intuition or something.
Yeah.
This last week I did a session, and every session is different for me, but I had my eyes closed and I literally had pink and magenta lights on for myself. And flute came on and I saw one color. And then I heard piano come on and I saw another color. And I thought, my engineering mind said, oh, you're just making this up. And I said, no, I'm literally seeing different colors with different instruments. And one of my clients is a channeler medium, and she said, it's this gift. She named it. I don't know what she named. And I thought, cool. This is something new I'm going to now experiment with. You know, what tone or key was that flute in? What key was being hit on the piano when I saw green, when I saw blue? And that's just going to help me to take this technology to the next level as well. And as you had mentioned when you came in and I would love for you to share your experience in the egg. But you said, do you have turquoise?
Yeah.
Do you have amber? I said, in fact, I do. And you're like, good. That's the kid's high heart color.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny because what you explained to me, because I said, I just didn't know why I needed this variety of colors. But when my manufacturers were working on it and said, well, just do it this way. And I said, no. And they said, why not? I said, I don't know why not. It just can't be that way. And you explained to me that the kids were probably telepathically communicating with me. I just didn't recognize it, but yet I knew that it wasn't right. I just didn't know why.
Right. Well, and that was the other thing too, Gail, when we first met. And I think one of the first things that you said afterwards is like the kids started coming to you. It's like, and that reconfirmed what I had been hearing as well. Right. And
Yeah.
one of the things that and I want you to talk to them specifically about the color and sound element of this and how you use that within the egg. But one of the things that the kids were saying is that they did need turquoise as a high heart sound, as a higher frequency color. And they also needed amber as their grounding frequency. So that band of energy between turquoise and amber was more conducive of their putting themselves into some kind of coherent field. So talk to them about color. And
I have to say this too. I forgot totally until you just said that. The little girl that was 4 that came to the Dallas Center, we let her choose her colors. And she said she wanted blue. And we said, what color blue? And we showed her the colors of blue. She picked the turquoise.
Yeah.
And then we said, what other color? And then she's like, you people are crazy. I already picked a color. Yeah. So we gave her the remote and we let her press what color. She picked the amber.
Yeah. Good. Yes.
I was like, oh my God. I'm sure she thought I was crazy because I was like, oh my God, those are the colors.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
So I've been studying these instruments and these, the lights and how they interact with the chakras for 10 years, probably longer, probably 3,000 years, right? And so I realized that different instruments have different sound waves or wave patterns. So say the flute, it just goes up and down. Very simple. One of the oldest instruments on the planet, flutes and drums. Even when I was in Greece, in the museums, you could see that they used flutes. They were in the displays. So piano is a little more chaotic of a sound wave. And so when we created some of the music tracks for the kids, we called one the Kids Sanctuary. It's a very simple flute, sound wave, birds, and water. Not overstimulating, not overcomplicated, not an orchestra of music. Maybe some people can handle that, but most people, it needs to be not so flutes and drums and trumpet. And so they all have a different property. So when people come in, a client comes in, they'll explain to me what they have going on and say it's asthma, say it's insomnia, or say it's something like Parkinson's. The training manual tells the center owners which instruments to use for each of these conditions and what colors. So each of the different colors can do something. So I feel like when Edgar Cayce way back in the 40s said, if we can bring the spiritual forces of sound and the spiritual forces of light together, it'll be a great modality for the future.
And it's proving to be just that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so does that answer the question with the different instruments? Because each different instrument will do a different thing for the body.
Yeah.
Say our body is a locked file cabinet, but when you hit the body with those waves, the body will unlock and say, okay, I need this in my liver. Oh, I need this in my lungs. Oh, I need this in my brain. And it knows where to organize this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes so much sense to me too, Gail, that we're talking about color and we're talking about sound. Because the other thing that the kids have shown over and over again, like so many of these kids, especially some of the ones that are more nonverbal, they have all of these tones that they use. They have all of this sound that they use, to move energy, right? They have physical movement that they use to move energy. But one of the things that they said a long time ago too, that I didn't quite get until I got it, was they kept asking me to tell their parents to just listen to the sounds they're making. Instead of looking at them and kind of going, okay, something's wrong with you because you're not talking, or something's wrong with you because you're squeaking and chirping and making all of these, odd sounds. They kept telling me, just ask the parents to just close their eyes for a second and listen, even if it's chaotic energy, even if it's, because a lot of times it was more like the symphony of that environment. It was the symphony of that physical environment. And it was meant to be chipping away at certain things within the unconscious, which is exactly where you're taking them. And so what I noticed is when I would have parents just kind of just sit and listen to the sounds that your kids are making and notice what it's doing in the body, it's almost like the kids were a little bit of a harmonic egg. It was their own version of being a harmonic egg. And I think it's the exact reason why what you've created is like, it so resonates with them, and why they keep telling me to go down this road with you, because I think it's very similar to what they are actually doing or could be doing. So does that make sense?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So this brings up a bunch of stuff. So I have learned from Ani Williams that different tones can be missing from your voice at different times in your life, maybe since you were born. So say you're missing the tone of C or E. You might have lung issues that correlate to that missing tone. And I've been able to use a digital tuner and have people talk into a microphone, and I can see what they're missing in their voice.
Oh, cool.
And then we'll go ahead and replenish that. So the tone of E, for example, is lung, respiratory, and it's also color. It's associated with yellow. And I'm wondering if these parents can use a digital tuner. But also, what if the kids are trying to balance the environment with
They are. They are.
right?
That's
Oh my
exactly
God.
what they're
So
trying
like
to
this
do.
opens up a whole new like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do, Gail,
Yeah.
because it's they've always said too, it's like their presence here is shifting the environment so that their presence can be greater here, and so that the presence of those around them can be greater here, right? And so that gets me excited too, because that's
They're
exactly
all
what they're
smart.
doing. They're toning into or changing the environment.
Right.
So yeah, they're
Yeah.
filling
So
this. Yeah.
so cool. So we have song selections that are recorded in the key of G or the tone of G and C sharp. And I send people home with the pitch pipe where they can blow into it and replenish those tones actively and passively by listening to the tones in the egg. And when my voice was checked by Ani, I wasn't missing any of the tones.
Yeah.
So does that tell me that the egg's replenishing them? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
I took a bunch of my clients who have been in for 10, 12 sessions, and they were missing none or one or two.
Yeah.
People who had just come in and never used it were missing 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And just because you are verbal and or nonverbal doesn't mean that you are missing those tones. You
No.
know, it's like doesn't mean that you're necessarily missing that full spectrum. You
Right.
know, it's like so this
And
is fascinating.
depending on what you're talking about, so if they're talking about something about an ailment in their body, they're usually
Yeah.
missing. But
Yeah.
when I ask them, send me a sound, make a verbal or audible sound that would be if you really pictured you didn't have this condition anymore, and they'll say ah, or they'll make a sound,
Yeah.
there's a missing tone, it's there.
There. Oh wow.
So
Brilliant.
easy.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. So, Gail, what else do you want to tell us about the egg? I want also people to have an opportunity to ask you a few questions if you're open for that
Absolutely,
as
absolutely.
well.
Well, did you want to share your experience in the egg first, or do you want me to share the dream that I had?
Well, we'll share. How about if we do both? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go? Is the dream after I was there or before?
Yes, after.
Okay, then I'll do my bit first then. So when I did go to the Harmonic Egg, I had 2 sessions back to back at Gail's Center in Denver. And the first time I really went in with the intention of understanding this more around the kids. And what was really amazing, the thing that really stuck out to me was that when I was in there, there was all kinds of information, all kinds of things being done on my third eye, and all kinds of fun things going on energetically. There were other beings in this space at the same time, but the thing that really stuck out to me was the kids showed me this big tree of life. So, and in the symbol of the tree of life, the branches hang down to the earth, and the earth, the roots are gathering it back up. So it's there's a big movement of energy, as above, so below, so to speak. What was interesting to me is that on this particular tree of life, there were harmonic eggs hanging underneath the branches and above the earth. And at one point I saw those pods coming all the way down to the earth and children walking out of them. So paying a lot of attention to that. And in the second time that I went in, I really went in for my own benefit. And when I'm saying this now, Gail, it makes me smile because a lot of what has been going on since then, I'm just recognizing was started right there. But there was just a lot of energy around the balance of the masculine and feminine within me during that private session piece.
Pardon me right now, okay?
And there's and that balance of the masculine and feminine within me was also really so important, both to my own development, but also the collective consciousness of the kids have always said that has to be there. That talk about creating an environment for where they can be and how they can fully embody that particular piece, masculine and feminine within us, has to be there. So anyway, I have no doubt that I'm supposed to be talking to you, Gail. So do you have something you wanted to add about the dream?
So you, yeah, but and when you came out, you said like when they came down and the eggs opened, they were in all their different forms, and it was just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, all their different galactic forms, which was very interesting. Yeah, their
Cool.
bodies showed up, you know, as to what was true for them here. Yeah, and I can honestly say that's been my journey as well. So yeah, to show up here.
So, and I don't even remember, I'm trying to think, I don't even remember why I emailed you that dream. It was just, I woke up that day, I think we were talking about something, and I said, oh my gosh, I had this crazy dream where they were grizzly bears or black bears all over this land. And I was needing to walk through, and I'm like, oh my God, there's bears everywhere. And it was like these rolling hills, and two kids came up on horseback, one boy, one girl. The boy was nonverbal. The girl, and I didn't put this together. You had to share it. You had to tell me. The girl said, just get on his horse and we'll walk you through and you'll be safe. I start crying again. And the boy, you could tell he was like, I don't want her on my horse, but she's like, just get on. She was very like, you know what to do. And I had to find a place to mount on the back of his horse, and they walked me through and I was safe. Yeah. And the bears didn't bother us anyway.
Yeah, when the kids show up like this, in like, you know, when the kids show up like this, it's exactly what, for me anyway, awesomism has always been about, which is make that connection. And once that connection is made, the kids walk you through piece by piece, bit by bit. They'll show you exactly what's needed next in order to be of support to them and their kind. So.
It was so cool, but for whatever reason, I had to share that with you for you to share with me. It was the kids, and I was like, oh, then it all made sense. It all fell into place.
Yeah, and the whole thing about the horse, you know, and your own power, and the kids, you know, the nonverbal and the verbal, the feminine and the masculine, you know, it was like it was all lined up. And even the part, as you're saying it now too, even the part of, you know, the nonverbal, the male not wanting to, it's like, I don't want her in my power yet, kind of thing. And at the same time, it's like, again, it's like understanding that, building that trust, building that relationship. This is how I'm going to come into this power. Just walked you right through it. So I'm excited. I'm so excited for you.
So cool. Yeah. So, and absolutely, I'm available for questions if people have them.
Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys have had the opportunity to look at some information about the Harmonic Egg on Gail's website. And I did post her, her interview with Regina Meredith. So you've got a lot of information that way too. But if you have any questions or comments or thoughts, anything that you want, we've got Gail here. So hold on a second. Jordan. Oh, so Jordan is with Kelly. He's nonverbal and communicates via facilitated communication or spellboard. He says, Mommy, tell them this is the coolest thing. When can I try? I wonder how it would help my liver issues. So thank you, Jordan. Yeah.
So, well, we use flute music and like an orangey light for liver issues. And we do have one selection that we've created called Liver Remedy. I wonder if he would like that.
Yes.
It's very, some crystal bowls droning in the background, very meditative, using some flute music. I don't like to use orange light always for the kids, but certainly they know what they need. So I teach the practitioners and the owners to kind of let them guide the light selections. Reds, oranges, and yellows are very overstimulating. So, you know, sometimes they don't choose that.
Yeah.
And then we use the greens for a neutral color, blues, and purples for more calming and relaxing. So,
and I wonder too if that reason that amber is part of it is it's because it's not such a strong version of any of those colors.
right, right. Yeah, it's more of like, you can see a little bit of a brownish green.
Brown and the grounding energy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Cool. Anybody else have? Thanks, Jordan.
Where's Jordan from? Where are they located?
Canada, East Coast side.
It's not one very close to there yet.
Yet, yeah. Anybody else? Questions, comments you want to share? You got her here.
Did we answer all the questions?
All right, hold on a second. Let's see. Somebody's asking, they're saying, I see that you sell CDs. Can these be used independently? Good question.
Great question. So I created a couple of tracks because I was finding that the music I was using, there would be drumming but no flute. There'd be a guitar but no drumming. And so I wanted to bring together what I feel is the 5 main reasons we get disease, which is liver problems, inflammation, stress, viruses, so there's these 5 main heavy metals. So I put together these pieces. It's not a substitute for being in the egg because you don't have the colors, you don't have the resonant chamber, you're not inside the sacred geometry of the egg. However, it's a small piece of the harmonic egg that people can take home with them if they don't have access to the egg, because we created medical notes, or what we call liner notes. So we'll say, here's the intention for this piece. Here's the colors that were intended in this piece. So when you use these pieces of music, you can wear those colors of clothing. You can eat that color of food. So you can even sit underneath a lamp of that color. But for all practical purposes, it's not the total consciousness of the egg. A practitioner may use different sound selections, and this is just one consciousness of one musician in these tracks. So good question.
Gail, we have another question. So what if you want to start a center? Good question.
Good question. Well, so far, we didn't really think this was going to take off as quickly as it did. We're a year out of waiting for people. We will never be in mass production. These eggs will always be handcrafted and hand built. We're never going to do mass production. There has to be an energy and love in them, so they'll never be mass produced. So right now there's a year wait. My manufacturers are hiring more people so we can bridge that gap. But certainly if you're interested in opening a center and being a practitioner and being a guardian for the eggs, they are available for sale. Should I put the price out there? Because
Sure.
It's different. So I guess I want to say in mainland USA, it's different because if it's international, so maybe people will contact me.
Yeah.
International, we have to pay for crating and shipping, and it's a different price. So it's based on where the location is, where the egg's going to be sent on the price. So I guess just contact me and I can let you know for your area what the price is.
And I think the other thing too, Gail, is that you are really amazing at helping people kind of work through some of the details of those centers. And I know there's a YouTube video up that you posted around, how you created your first center, how you actually got the financing to do what you were going to be doing. And I think that those are questions that are really good to, that people can find that on YouTube, and they'll find it through Gail too. So, okay, so another one. So Anna was saying that amber and turquoise have always been her soul colors that show up when she meditates. She felt so drawn to the harmonic egg ever since it was introduced. And she said that she's emailed you, Gail, about being involved in any way possible. So also say to everyone that if you have a harmonic egg center, I would absolutely love to be contacted about helping. Thank you, Gail, for doing this. So, and then Jordan was saying again that his girlfriend lives near Alpharetta,
Alpharetta, Georgia. Right.
so win-win when I visit is what he was saying.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so somebody asked, can Suzy offer any recommendations for my son with autism who might not want to sit alone for a whole session? Gail, you could probably talk about that too. Why don't you address
great.
that, and then I can.
So we just had a Down syndrome, lovely soul girl come in on Friday, and she was also afraid and didn't want to sit in the egg by herself. We actually left the door open. Her father sat on one side of the door, her mother sat on the other side of the door, and they could see her and she could see them. I gave her 15 minutes and came back into the room and asked her if I could maybe close the door a little bit more. And she was very comfortable. She was loving it. And I closed the door a little bit more, leaned her back a little bit more in the chair, and came back a few minutes later, or maybe 10, 15 minutes later, and she was resting very peacefully. She came out. She never did close the door the whole way that first session. But when we sat on the couch and chatted for a while, she said, yeah, I think next time we can close the door all the way. So you can be in the room and with the child, and when they're in there, if they're scared. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. One of the other things that this is a question that I have, Gail, it just came up because of this, but one of the other, as the kids talk all the time about being these reflective mirrors of the environment and also of some of the deeper programming or unconscious programming that is going on within their lineage lines. One of the other things that I had heard, and I haven't even had a chance to talk to you about this yet, but one of the other things that I had heard is that when the parent goes in the egg, especially first, when the parent has had some time to kind of shift and move and change and reorganize certain things, the kid will naturally and organically more likely either go in and or reflect something differently because of the unconscious patterning that's coming through from the parent. Does that make sense? Or being reorganized with the parent.
And actually, when I was taught by my mentor, he suggested, and they didn't even suggest, he required the parent to do the sessions.
I would too.
You raise your vibration, you raise your consciousness, you want to meet them there, or you want to be at that same level with them while they're healing and integrating. So yes, I do really require that the parents are doing sessions as well.
Yeah.
And, just because you're not in the egg, just because, in the room, they were, when I walked in the room, the heavy metal smell was so, I don't want to say flavorful.
Potent.
It was potent.
Yeah.
And I know that, a lot with autism and Down syndrome, it's a lot of neurotoxins, and I'm not sure why they hold the heavy metals, but it seems like the heavy metals come out as a very strong smell in the room.
Yeah.
And because all the two parents and the child was in there, who knows where the smell was coming from? All three, one, two, who knows? Right. So yes, it really is good for them to do the sessions as well and integrate. And I've had people tell me, my wife did a session, and when we were sleeping in bed together, the next day I woke up, my back pain was gone. Mm-hmm. And he said, do you think that the energy of the egg was around her and it helped my back pain to go away, even though I was never there? Mm-hmm. Anything's possible.
Yeah, and this also goes back to something, this conversation from the collective consciousness of the children about them understanding oneness, like, and when we really understand it, when we really understand oneness, just what you just said, it's when one person shifts and changes, another person shifts and changes, and especially if that person is highly energetically sensitive, if they're highly attuned to those subtle changes, it makes perfect sense that any change that happens in their environment or happens within their parents, or, it's like there's a few things that I would like to do with educators and medical professionals and all kinds of other people to just kind of go, okay, let's just work with this, you know, and then see what happens to this population as a whole. So there's are there training requirements, Gail, when you start a center?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's about a year curriculum. When you make a deposit, because the wait is so long to get an egg now, when you make a deposit, I send you a required reading list of about 16 books that I feel like of the 300 or 400 I've read have really helped me hone into creating the protocol for the harmonic egg. So you get that at the beginning. And then when you receive your manual and I come and train you, it tells you, here's all the instruments that you have in the music selections. Here's what these instruments do. Here's how they affect the chakras, the organs, the bodies. They're the different energetic bodies. And you will flip back and forth and say, okay, so somebody wants to work on liver. We probably use some flute music. Let me see what music selections I have that have flute in them. So I teach you how to navigate the manual. And there's also different references, client examples, just all kinds of stuff that we talk about when I come to train you when you receive your egg. So it's a pretty intense training. And I feel like, you know, a year or two, you probably be pretty well versed. But after 6 or 8 months, I feel like the egg communicates with you. And so you almost can put the manual away, but it's still your foundation.
Yeah, makes sense. The next question, how do you measure and track improvements from using the egg? And also, are you aware of any other Western doctors using this type of treatment?
La Jolla, California has a nurse practitioner and a medical doctor that own an egg. And Sedona has a nurse practitioner that owns an egg, and they're both well, La Jolla's trying to get a research grant to do some research. Sedona is doing heart rate variability pre and post sessions using a Welltory app on her phone and finding that there's an improvement in the autonomic nervous system after just one session. So she's impressed with that. And, you know, science is science. I feel like if you feel better, it's doing something. You know, I mean, I tried to buy all these different machines and spent, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know it works. And I had a doctor that I work with, and she's from Texas, really cute accent. And she's, well, Gail, do you believe in what you're doing? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, then you don't need a test. If they don't want to come, they don't have to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've always been searching, because of the engineer in me, I've always been searching, what can I do pre and post? I've tried gas discharge visualization, which is the GDV camera. It's also, some people have BioWell cameras. I've tried pre and post of different blood work, asking people to get blood work done before and after. I've guinea pigged myself with blood work, urine tests for heavy metals, and I'm always seeing results, but nothing to say that it's a clinical research study. And we don't make any claims or guarantees, but I feel like if you feel better, it's working.
Yes. Well, and the other thing too is I think this goes back to and I've been involved in a couple different research projects myself around, especially these kids. And what I noticed too is a lot of times with this particular population, there are shifts and changes taking place that do manifest in the physical world as a significant change. And significant meaning mom can say, the kid used to not do this and now they do this, or that, you know, whatever that. But if you run them through something medical, at least, especially right from the get-go, it's not going to show up, because the shifts and the changes that are happening at the level that they're happening within these kids that make a change in their experience, but don't show up as testing. Right. It's a lot of times the minute they go, well, it didn't show up on the test, what I notice is a lot of times the parent goes, oh, well, maybe it's not working, so we're going to back up. Or they dismiss what they're seeing as a change as something that's, and so I always tell parents over and over again, make sure you're paying attention to the symptomology, make sure you're paying attention to what has actually changed in your environment, and give that meaning. Because
Right.
if you give that meaning, that will increase, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What you look at blood work, I have had blood work done, and there's so many influences. I feel like the blood results are maybe influenced by the phlebotomist that took the blood.
Totally.
Flown on an airplane sometimes, and it's radiated before it gets to the lab to be tested.
Yeah.
It's sitting under fluorescent lights. There's somebody testing it. Their energy's in there. So really, what is accurate blood results when
Yeah.
you see all the different factors that go into the
Yeah.
testing? And I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I have another question. It says, can one provide a body modality at the same time while being in the harmonic egg, such as reflexology? Of course, I imagine that this egg need nothing additional. I'm just curious.
You mean while you're during the session, or around the same week or time frame?
It sounds like it's the way she worded it, or the way it was worded was while being in the harmonic egg.
Okay.
So it's modality while they're in there.
So I'll answer it both ways that I understood it anyway. And you can do tapping while you're in there. You can work energetically on yourself when you're in there. Absolutely. I tell people just to set an intention, feel what that would feel like in every cell of your being, and then let it go. Release and let go and just enjoy. But I hear people chanting in there. I hear people saying, talking to their higher power, God, source, whatever they believe in. And I hear little kids that have prayed in there. One kid, he was like, okay, God, I really want my ankle to heal so I can play soccer in the tournament. So I've heard different things, but I tell them set an intention, but certainly you can do energy work on yourself in there. I have shamans that go in and they say they stretch and they, just kind of flow energy. But afterwards, you really want to wait 5 or 7 days to allow the integration of that energy. I very often talk to people who are doing too much energy work and creating chaos in their body and spinning their body out of control. Of course, acupuncture is great. Massages are great. Reiki is great, but not all on the same day.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't know how to process that. It would be like reading a magazine, reading a newspaper, listening to the TV, listening to the radio, and talking on the phone, and trying to comprehend all of it. It's too much.
Well, and this is one of the other things too, Gail, that, I'm sure drew the collective consciousness of the children to you, and definitely drew me to you as well, as this whole conversation around integration, because I think we're so conditioned to believe that, what we're doing, the energy work, the this, the that, whatever those steps are that we're taking is the end all be all, and it really isn't. It's the ebb and flow. I mean, we have an in breath and an out breath for a reason. There's an ebb and a flow to life for a reason. So I love that you have this conversation with people about that integration process and really allowing that, because it just anchors into the body and creates stability, creates solidity, creates a new state of being much easier than if we're just constantly going.
Well, if you're going and going and going and going and you're never sitting, it just doesn't work. I had a lady call me yesterday. She took I think it was a red light laser therapy course and got certified, and she's doing it on herself, and it flipped her upside down. All of her old symptoms came back, and she said, why did this happen to me? And I told her, you did too much. Just like you had said, the right tools in the wrong hands, or the right tools in untrained hands can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
And she said, well, why the F didn't they tell me this in the training? And this is the most important piece of information that I got. And I clearly am not ready to work on anybody. I said, thank you. Please don't work on anybody.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Anybody else have any other questions? Well, we've got Gail here, or comments or anything else. There's a, all right. Nothing else? Let's see. Are there some light sound healing techniques that we can do at home that you could recommend?
Absolutely. Let me think of a couple. So I switch out the light bulb in my bedroom. Like right now it's on blue light. So every so often I will switch out a different light, but you can get one of those overhanging lights and with different colors of light bulbs, and you can look up what color you might need for any conditions that you have and let your body absorb that nanometer of that color frequency. You can certainly purchase, healing music and just lie under that light. And obviously we have those tracks, available. But yeah, there's a lot of different things you can, when you determine what color you might need in your life right now, you can eat that color foods, wear the color jewelry, wear the color clothes. There's so many fun things to do with light and sound. So those are just a couple little examples.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Gail, how about you? Anything else that you want to share with us before we let you go? I so appreciate you taking your time to visit. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for allowing me to share the message for the eggs. I so appreciate it, and I thank all of you for what you're doing to help the collective consciousness and the kids and adults that you're helping in your life. But take care of yourself, please. It's my challenge too. Every week I do egg sessions. I'm having a massage today. It's my day off. Take care of yourselves, because if you don't, you can't take care of anybody.
Yeah, really well said. So we had a couple thank yous for your creation. Very inspiring and exciting. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. So, all right, everybody. Harmonicegg.com, right? That's where they get all the information. You can get email connection to Gail there as well if you're interested in centers and fun things like that, or just learning a little bit more. Read her testimonial page. It's like, I love that page. So it's wonderful. All right, so I think that, anything else, Gail? Anything you've got? Nope. All right, so lots of love, everybody. Thanks for making it. And yeah, see you soon. Bye.